In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its time. Now, George Romero brings us the most intensely shocking motion picture experience for all times. Dawn of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead has ended. Dawn of the Dead is here.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
They must be destroyed on sight.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Dawn of the Dead.
Welcome to the Cinematic Void Podcast. Cinematic Void is a cult film series that hosts screenings in the Los Angeles area as well as virtually. I'm your host, Jim Branscombe, and joining me as always is...
Hey, what's up? It's Nick Vance, Paranoid Futures on Letterboxd or wherever. You can find Cinematic Void on the World Wide Web at cinematicvoid.com, as well as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all the major podcast platforms. If you want to support The Void, you can consider joining our Patreon. Not only do you get cool perks, but you make this podcast as well as a Cinemadness movie possible. Go ahead and hit subscribe, like, thumbs up, heart it, wherever you're watching, listen to this, you know? Just do a little thing, push it around a little bit, maybe tell your friend. It's all good.
Tell your friend, like, you know, it's cool that we have people that, you know, come up to us and tell us, like, hey, I really like the podcast, but, like, I hate to be this guy because I hate when other podcasts do it, but now I know why. It's like, come on, man, just give us a rating. And the only reason I'm asking is because it just puts it on other people's radar. So if you enjoy the podcast, give us a rating, thumbs up, like, just what like Nick just already said. I don't need to repeat it, but just helps spread the word, the gospel of the void, as it were.
Fuck with the algorithm a little bit.
Yeah, fuck with the algorithm, because, like, you can't get this shit on Facebook. Speaking of the podcast, there's now an option that the feed is on Facebook.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Like, Facebook has their own, like, podcast. Like,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Fuck them. So, so anyway, we just passed Halloween. How's your Halloween, Jim? Did you get into anything?
Yeah, I sat at home and I packed up Pat's Chili Dog shirts on Halloween.
Right on.
Because the hello issue, that part of my shirt package arrived late, and I knew coming on November 1st, like, I was going to be busy, and it's just like, I was at home for Halloween. Like, this is something that's been happening the last several years, unless, like, I'm out of town. It's just like, sometimes just don't feel like it didn't feel like Halloween this year, if that makes sense. I don't know how you felt about it.
I mean, I definitely didn't do anything, but that's kind of my move anyway. Like, I don't know, just I don't know, man. I'm old. I'm not getting dressed up for Halloween. I'm not like, oh, that's kid shit, but, like, I don't know. I actually sat home and watched Hereditary. That's what I did on Halloween. I don't know.
You at least watched like a horror movie. I didn't do shit like that. Like, literally, just like, it was just my wife and cats and I at home and
just packing up shirts.
I mean, I did all the packing. She did other stuff because she's like, yeah, I ain't helping you with that shit, dog. But
yeah,
not that she doesn't help, but, like, I don't know. I felt bad because, like, these were so late. Same with the Halloween shirts, and, like, I just wanted to crank them out. But, you know, Halloween was what it was, but I decided to extend Halloween because I ended up doing a screening of Halloween 3 on November 5th. Now, full disclosure, this screening was originally supposed to be on Halloween, but, like, when they went to go book the print, all the 35 millimeters for Halloween 3 were booked. And I kind of felt like I was going to get yelled at by, like, the 35 millimeter mafia if I showed a DCP, so I was like, let's just wait a week. I thought it'd be funny to just show it in November anyway, because...
Yeah, and people love it these days, so why not?
Yeah.
They're going to come out for it.
I mean, I called it the Halloween Hangover screening, and this is the Monday after that screening, and it was a lot of fun. Like, I wasn't there as the host, unfortunately. We brought out Tom Atkins' brother, Dom Atkins, who, if you were at Beyond Fest in 2019 when we did the Tomathon, Dom was there to help introduce the movies before Tom got there. So Dom made a appearance for the Halloween 3 screening. Like, I've never met Dom, so be cool to meet him. But
he was an interesting character.
Yeah, I heard someone heckled him about a Subway or some shit.
He's a little drunk.
I mean, isn't he always? Yeah, I mean, from what I heard from you, who was there, and what everyone seemed to be a rowdy good time. I saw some video of Dom's intro, so.
Yeah, it was good fun.
And then the following day, just not really Halloween spirit, but still like horror related, teamed up with Severin Films to do the second Super Shock pop-up film festival. We originally did this over at the Egyptian and the Spielberg back in, I guess, 2019, and we were supposed to do it 2020, but the date was going to work out, so Severin decided to rent out the Montalban, and we were supposed to do it there. Pandemic hit, so ended up being at the Arena Cine Lounge outdoors, and I think we were all a little skeptical about outdoor theaters and that kind of stuff, but the event was really cool. We debuted like 3 of Severin's upcoming Black Friday titles. Bloody Pit of Horror, aka The Crimson Executioner with Mickey Haggerty, big strong man, used to be married to Jane Mansfield.
Oh, right on.
That was the first movie. Then we showed an Indonesian movie, The Forbidden Door, which was really cool, really violent, really surreal. I think you would really like The Forbidden Door.
Okay.
I think that's up your alley. And then the last movie, which was something we talked about, but we couldn't really talk about when we had Bruce Holochek on for the Bigfoot episode, which was, of course, Night of the Demon, which we knew that whole fucking time that Severin basically got access to the only 35mm print of it. And were able to do a scan, extensive color correction, and it's the best this fucking movie's ever looked.
Hell yeah.
Like, now you can see Bigfoot dick rip in stunning 2K resolution HD. It's fucking a thing of beauty. I fucking filmed it at the screening because it was just amazing. And the coolest part about that screening is director Jim Wasson of Night of the Demon showed up. Now, little backstory with him is he's never actually seen this full version of the movie because the version he made was a PG Bigfoot movie that was more in the vein of, Legend of the Boggy Creek and a lot of the other Bigfoot movies that came out in the early to mid 70s. But by the time this movie's coming out, they're like, we got to compete, we got to make it gory. So they went and reshot a bunch of shit without him, which is all the gore scenes. So he had never seen it, but he had a blast at the screening. He was super nice too. Like, Severin also, they did some cool things for Night of the Demon. They have a Night of the Demon mask that they're going to be selling on Black Friday. They have a fucking Bigfoot statue, and the Bigfoot's holding a little dick in its hand from when we ripped it off. And they also did a fucking novelization of Night of the Demon.
Oh, wow.
So they got a really cool package with it, but I'm beyond stoked. Like, Night of the Demon's one of my personal favorite of the video nasties. It's, my favorite Bigfoot movie. It's just out of control, and it obviously was one of the movies they showed early on during the pandemic for Cinematis Movie, so I was kind of happy that it's come full circle from like that old 1-inch tape master that's been like the basis for every release since. Now it's getting a true, really nice restoration, so shout out to David and Severin. Like, that event was a lot of fun, but we're talking about Halloween and that kind of stuff. It's kind of time to talk about another holiday. It's a holiday that kind of gets lost because Christmas, for a lot of people, starts on November 1st now. Are you one of those big start Christmas on November 1st guys?
Nah, I gotta get past Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I
agree with that. I like Thanksgiving. I like eating food. I like, because what my wife and I do on Thanksgiving is we just sit around, make dinner, watch Turkey Day Mystery Science Theater marathon, and like, that's kind of our tradition. It's like, I have nothing against Christmas. I just don't like the fact that, like, I'll say this too. Like, September, when everyone there's that segment of people that start putting on the Halloween decorations, like, it's spooky season. It's like, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of hate that shit because I think it takes away from October and Halloween. Just like starting Christmas on fucking November 1st takes away from Christmas a little bit. I remember last time I was in Salem in 2018. Day after Halloween, we're walking through the Witch City Mall, playing fucking Christmas music. And this is goddamn Salem. Take out, the bad stuff associated with Thanksgiving. It's about just take the meaning, not the actual historic meaning. You know what I mean? It's about, comfort and, enjoying time with your family. It's better than Christmas and trying to enjoy your family because I feel like there's more fights at Christmas than Thanksgiving. Yeah. I mean, it's just everyone gets fucking stuffed and just falls asleep. There's no gifts or anything like that to hold you back. But the thing about Thanksgiving, which does lead into Christmas, is the day after, which is Black Friday, which is the big mall day. I remember like family members would get up at like 2 in the fucking morning and go to the mall to get those deals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why we're coming into today's episode. Well, part of the reason. One, Black Friday's coming up. And two, it's related to a screening I'm going to be doing later this month in November. So for Black Friday, along with Beyond Fist, we're going to be screening George A. Romero's classic Dawn of the Dead. I've actually done this screening before, funny enough, in 2018. It feels like this is a 2018 podcast from the amount of times I've said it now. But 2018, I made a pitch to Cinematheque Programming. I was like, I want to do a Black Friday screening of Dawn of the Dead because of the mall and all that stuff. And made it happen. And Christian's like, hey, I want part of this too. He brought up Greg Nicotero, who didn't work on Dawn, but he was, friends with Romero and worked on like Day of the Dead and a lot of other Romero movies. And it was a really cool discussion, talked about insight about the original script and that kind of stuff. And then after we did it, I guess the next year I did another Black Friday double feature of Chopping Mall and Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge. But Christian and I had talked about like we should try to do Dawn of the Dead again on Black Friday and kind of make it a tradition, because a lot of rep houses now, like, they do Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Black Christmas for Christmas and that kind of stuff. But I kind of just want to do something around Thanksgiving time because no one really does it. So it's just like, why don't we just make a tradition of screening Dawn of the Dead on Black Friday? And we actually worked it out with Grant from the Cinematheque, Christian and I. We talked to Richard P. Rubenstein, who's the producer of Dawn of the Dead and rights holder. And more or less, we worked it out for, at least for now, a 2-year deal. We're doing it this year and next year. We're showing Dawn of the Dead on Black Friday. And, Dawn is one of my all-time favorite movies. I think it's the best zombie movie ever made. That's just my opinion. And I thought it'd be fun, kind of leading into the screening, was just kind of talk about Dawn, because besides these screenings, I have a bit of a relationship with Dawn. I don't know. I mean, do you feel like you have a bit of a relationship with Dawn?
I mean, I've certainly seen it enough times. Something I used to just throw on in the background while I'm just doing shit. It's just playing.
There's a lot of different facets with Dawn, and we're going to talk about them. This is going to be kind of like the Fog episode we did earlier this year, but maybe not as detailed. This is going to be more, I think, at least for me, more personal experience with this movie. So we're going to take a little commercial break, but when we return, we're going to talk about some Dawn of the Dead on the Cinematic Void podcast.
George Romero's sensational new film, Zombies, brings you face to face with the dawn of the dead.
They are multiplying too rapidly.
We've got to survive. Somebody's got to survive.
Zombies, Certificate X. In the West End now and all over London from Sunday.
Welcome back. We're going to be talking about George A. Romero's zombie classic, Dawn of the Dead. Obviously, we're only talking about the 78 version and not the Zack Snyder remake. I'm just going to say I don't plan on bringing it up. I know it has its fans. I didn't mind it when it first came out. I don't really like the movie now, so yeah, if you want to hear about that, I'm sure there's another podcast that will wax philosophical about the Zack Snyder version. But for me, we're just going to talk about Dawn of the Dead. And I guess my first question for you, Nick, is do you remember the first time you saw Dawn of the Dead?
I don't. I don't really remember a specific first time, but it kind of just like in the way that it just always feels like it was there. Like as far as like once I was aware of horror movies, it was just always been in the conversation. So I don't specifically remember the first time.
Oh, I mean, that's a fair point. I do have a vivid memory of it because I remember, and I think I've talked about this before. Maybe I haven't talked about it on this podcast. I know I've talked about it elsewhere, but like Night of the Living Dead was the movie that kind of changed things for me on a bigger scale. And I used to be scared shitless because Night of the Living Dead, Rural Cemetery Church, there was one near the house I grew up at. After just not even finishing Night of the Living Dead, I was fucking terrified, too terrified to finish Night of the Living Dead because I thought zombies were going to come and fucking siege my like parents' house and fucking eat me. When I finally finished Night, it kind of opened the door to be obsessed with horror movies. And I remember I was in Virginia visiting aunt and uncle and cousins. It was a family visit, so I went with my mom and dad and my sister. And I always wanted to see Dawn of the Dead, and we went to the video store to rent some shit, so we rented Dawn of the Dead. And that was the first time I watched it, and I was just like blown a bit away by it. Of course, my sister, who was 9 years younger than me, shouldn't have been watching it, and was fucking scarred for life. Like, she has zombie nightmares to this day. Where,
Oh, wow.
Like, she's like running and shit in her sleep. She might not have them anymore, but like, that movie straight up fucked her up. And if she ever listens to this, sorry, Vicky. But that was the first time I saw it. And then I remember like obsessively wanting to own a copy. And I think it's like, I'm trying to think what year it is, but it was like when Anchor Bay and Elite Entertainment started like putting out the Laserdisc and then like VHS versions of Dawn of the Dead. And I remember going to Walmart, of all fucking places, and they had the tube tape Anchor Bay Elite Entertainment. I can't remember which one it was because it went back and forth. I think it might have been Anchor Bay. It was a 2-tape set of what they call the director's cut of Dawn of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And I think it was all supposed to be, one tape was supposed to have the movie, and then the other tape was supposed to have a bunch of extras. But whatever reason, they split the movie in half. Like, one part was on one tape, and the second half of the movie was on another tape. It's kind of fucking weird.
Well, I remember you and DeHaven both having copies of that. Mm-hmm. And I remember that also specifically because he has like a giant fucking tattoo on his, I think it's maybe his arm. Mm-hmm. But about it being split onto the two tapes there, something I learned, or I remembered in my recent rewatch of this, is it's way fucking longer than I remember, but also I guess we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we'll be getting it very soon.
But no matter which length, we'll say you would like me to watch, they're all pretty fucking long, is what I'm saying. It's a long movie. It's not I remember this being a 90-minute movie, and in its shortest incarnation, it is nowhere near a fucking 90-minute movie.
But, back to that tape, like, once I had Dawn of the Dead on tape, it was something I obsessively watched. Like, at one point through high school and maybe early college, like, I'm pretty certain I was watching it at least once a month, sometimes once a week, sometimes twice a month. Like, I was watching it a lot. Like, I probably watched it, like, any given year for, like, since, like, maybe, I guess I'd say 95 or 96. I can't remember when that tape came out, but like through like early 2000s, I was literally watching that movie at least once a month.
Yeah.
Every month.
And I definitely had a DVD that I feel like came out in maybe the early 2000s or late 90s that kind of had like it set it in gold on the spine.
Yeah. There's a couple different versions that hit DVD, and then Anchor Bay eventually put out a version that had all three of the main versions of Dawn of the Dead. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to jump on that in a second, but like, I want to talk kind of more of my obsession with Dawn of the Dead. Like, lived in just outside of Baltimore. Pittsburgh is 5-6 hours away, which is, Monroeville's like just, I can't remember if it's on the outskirts, if it's above, below, I don't have a fucking map on me, but basically if you drive to Pittsburgh, you're going to hit Monroeville. And my first adult road trip was to Monroeville Mall, and I think it was the year 2000. And I went with a mutual friend of ours, Jim DeHaven, who we mentioned a lot when we had Holocheck on the podcast, the Bigfoot episode. And we drove up there. Before we drove up there, because we were like, hey, we had this friend named Jesse Morgan. You remember Jesse Morgan?
Oh, yeah.
Jesse Morgan, cool dude, even though he likes ska, but, let's not hold that against anyone. It was the 90s and early 2000s. But Jesse had offered to go.
We've all got some skeletons in our closet.
Skeletons. But outside of that, Jesse went and bought Jim and I beer and like some rum and some things to go drink on this road trip once we got to Monroeville. And I guess he was fucking with us because he got us a fucking like 12-pack of fucking Corona Light. And then Jim and I thought it'd be funny to do this thing where he mixed rum and Dr. Pepper. Like, that would be a real mixed drink. And I'm going to tell you right now, that was a fucking horrible fucking idea. That Dr. Pepper is not a good mixer in any kind of drink.
Is it plum flavor? Is that what that's supposed to be?
I don't know what Dr. Pepper is supposed to be. Is it plum?
I think that's the one. Yeah, it's plum.
I haven't drank Dr. Pepper in years, but god damn it, if I had known that it was supposed to be plum flavor, Jesus fucking Christ. But regardless of what the flavor is, it does not go with rum. So here's the other thing. Corona is not a twist top, and we didn't have a bottle opener. So we go to stay at this like Days Inn, just literally on the outskirts of the Monroeville Mall. And basically during the day, we went to the mall, we took pictures, we tried to like, this is the internet might have existed, but like, actually the internet did exist, but we're taking like disposable cameras and taking photos of shit, at the mall. And like when we went in that early 2000s, like,
Is it you got Polaroid?
No, it wasn't Polaroid. It's like, those disposable cameras you used to get at like fucking Kmart or anywhere, and you had to take them and go get them developed, that kind of stuff. Sure. Yeah, because it was just whatever. Now that he has this crew, and like I said, they worked on basically from Martin, Dawn of the Dead, Night Riders, Creepshow, and Day of the Dead. That's a through run. That was like Romero's, I think, big run. Mm-hmm. And now that he has a team, another seed was planted. And that seed was when Romero was given a tour of Monroeville Mall. And that kind of gave him the inspiration. It's like, okay, I know how to do this movie. There's a line in the film, I think Roger says it when they're in a helicopter and they're flying over. It's like, what the hell is this place? And like Steven's like, oh, it's a mall, one of those shopping malls. And like at a time, especially in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, that line was kind of laughable because malls had became such a staple of America. Mm-hmm. And it's fucking funny to think about that now.
Yeah, I mean, this movie just makes me nostalgic for hanging out at the mall, being dropped off at the mall when I was like 12 or 13, buying acid by the Sam Goody. Just walking around the mall, just tripping your balls off. Oh, fun times.
Shout out to Hartford Mall. But no, it's like, because in the 70s, shopping malls were a relative new thing, so not everyone had it. And it's funny that like mall culture, because you got to think in the 80s, like you had stuff like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and like things that are very heavily dependent on like mall culture. And then what ended up happening is like now most people don't know what the fuck a mall is.
Yeah.
Because like, most people are just having stuff delivered to their home. It's like Amazon's the mall and you can't really shop there. Your mall's on your fucking computer monitor. So it's funny that line has lived long enough to like become relevant again. Like, what the hell is that?
I've gone to the Glendale Galleria. I think that's what it is, the Galleria, and walked around and been like, wow, I kind of miss the mall.
It's a different vibe, and it's just like, I mean, what really killed the mall was prices.
Yeah. It's
like, you had Suncoast Video and stuff like that.
And next day shipping.
Oh yeah, next day shipping and like Amazon Prime. It's like, why leave the fucking house when like you can definitely get what you want next day? Mm-hmm. But there's something about like walking around a mall and just perusing stores and just looking at shit that you probably won't buy, and then going to a store and ending up buying some piece of shit you don't really need.
Right.
It's something missing there. But it's just weird that like malls have now vanished, and like one of the focal points of this fucking movie like barely existed when it was made and now barely exists now. Something to think about. But having this mall location was like, that just gave him the cornerstone. And honestly, having the movie take place in the mall was kind of an ingenious move, because then obviously there's stuff that happens in this movie that happens before they get to the mall, but it becomes a one location movie, which is one of the perfect things for a low budget regional kind of horror movie,
And it wasn't done as well again until Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Oh, god damn it. I didn't even think you would pull that out. That's I don't know, man. But the other thing about like having a mall as your focal point is that you have different shops. So you have different locations within the one location. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get variety and you get different looks, even though you're technically in just one location. And, it's an interesting thing. And like the thing is, like, it's about if you watch the theatrical cut, not whatever the fucking abomination is that you watch, but it's around the 27-minute mark that like you get the first shot on the mall, and then like the rest of the movie essentially takes place there. Mm-hmm. And if it's not the mall, it's nearby, like where all those like big rigs like tractor trailers are at.
Dude, I swear today when I was watching it, I was like, it's 40 minutes in and they get to the mall. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, this is taking for fucking ever.
No, it's supposed to be 27 minutes, and then the rest of the 2 hours of the runtime of the theatrical cut is in and around the mall.
Oh, man.
God damn, man. But, you know, so he has the location that makes it, you know, becomes this practical thing. And the last thing that kind of like sealed Dawn of the Dead and making happen was another horror legend had become aware of it and was like, hey, I'll give you some money. I want to be part of this. And that was, of course, you know, Dario Argento. And, you know, Argento, he's a producer, but he was also kind of an advisor on it or a consultant. He actually flew Romero out to Italy and had him, like, you know, put him up in like some hotel and like fed him spaghetti every night. And like, this is what Romero said. I'm not trying to be racist.
I mean, come on, dog.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be racist. But Romero's like, yeah,
fucking spaghetti jokes.
Look, they like spaghetti in Italy. I'm sorry. But anyway, Romero had said he would, like, you know, eat spaghetti every night and he would just write there. And like, Argento didn't have a say in like that creative process. Argento said, you can make the version you want, but when you're done, I'm going to recut the movie to do a version I'm going to do out in the rest of your like non-English speaking countries. So that's basically what laid it in. And it was not only Argento, but it was his brother Claudio, and Alfredo Cuomo was another co-financer and, like, you know, producer on the movie. And, like, you know, we'll talk about that impact later in the episode, because, like, that also, it goes beyond just Dawn of the Dead with what they ended up doing. So we're going to take another quick commercial break, but when we return, more Dawn of the Dead here on the Cinematic Void Podcast. Got a couple of those and just shot a ton of photos of stuff. And when we were in the early 2000s, obviously things had changed from the movie. Like, there was no ice skating rink, the clock was gone, but like the JCPenney's was still there. You could still get in that elevator that, like, where Steven gets fucking mauled and then becomes a zombie and comes out. Yeah, escalators still there, and like there's things like that were still there. And all the parking lot signs, the numbers that hung up, those were all the same. You could see the hill where the biker gang comes down and that kind of shit. Like, that was really cool. And like, that was the only time I've ever been to Monroeville, but like, it was kind of a weird bucket list thing. And I think if I'd been smarter or brought a video camera, I could have fucking vlogged that thing and been like a huge vlogger then. But you don't think about that.
Nice.
You don't think about that shit back then. But, you know, that was the first adult road trip I went on, was the Monroeville Mall. And I remember coming back after going there and immediately watching Dawn of the Dead and like, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I found that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's a really cool experience. Like, I think the mall is almost completely different now. I know they have like I think a tribute, like, kind of like plaque for Romero there and that kind of stuff. Cause like when we went in the early 2000s, like, I think everyone thought we were fucking insane running around taking photos. Like, who are these fucking little dickheads? But, you know, now Monroeville is, I think, a very big tourist spot for Dawn of the Dead. I think even in the mall, there's like a zombie shop or something like that. And now they even do tours, like they'll do after hours tours, or like they'll have conventions and stuff like that where cast and crew show up. A lot different than it was in year 2000.
Right on.
Time has been kind to movies, but so getting back, and we were talking about this a little bit of this, is that eventually Anchor Bay put out a pretty nice deluxe DVD set of Dawn of the Dead, which had the three main versions, which is the theatrical version, the Cannes cut. This was the cut they played at the Cannes Film Festival to, like, you know, build up interest in it and distribution wise, which was mislabeled as the director's cut, which I had on VHS tape. And then there's the Dario Argento cut, because Dario Argento was a producer on this movie, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but basically he helped fund the movie for basically international rights or non-English language speaking countries, so he could make his own cut. And just to kind of give you a little bit of differences, like the can cut of Dawn is like scenes are a little extended. There's like little bits here and there, you know, a little more montages, that kind of stuff. It's realistically, it's the longest cut, like legit cut. And then in the Argento cut, it's very straight ahead. There's a little more gore shots cut in. A lot of the character development and humor that's in the theatrical and the cans cut is kind of snipped out. It's more like straight ahead action movie. And it also has wall-to-wall fucking goblin in it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the theatrical cut and then the cans cut is just like a mix of like some of the goblin score and like needle drop, like, you know, just music that he picked up. Like, why can't I think of the term of it? It's like library music. There we go. And then there's the cut that you went and fucking watched.
Hell yeah.
So in the last several years, people have made supercuts of Dawn of the Dead, and they usually pop up on YouTube. And for this podcast, I thought just keep it simple because it's shortest cut, and basically it's the real Romero, you know, director's cut. It's the theatrical cut. So it's like, watch the theatrical cut. It's a little over 2 hours. Somehow,
Dude,
you end up...
well, I'm like, oh, Jim's just being nice, just telling me, oh, send me a little link or whatever, you know? Hey, just watch this. And I'm like, this one's this is the director's cut. This is the extended cut. Oh, let's go.
No,
and then I realized this thing's like 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Yeah, this is called the ultimate cut. And this is a fan made version of Dawn of the Dead. Like, it just crams every fucking shot that's in any version of that fucking movie in there.
This thing is just going on and on. I've been watching this fucking movie all day, dude.
I know. And like, when I was like, because like you happened to be finishing when I came in, and I was like, I don't remember this in the theatrical cut. I'm like, what the fuck are you watching? And it was just like, you've watched one of these like fucking fan made monstrosities. It's like, it's cool that, you know, you can see every stitch of footage, but like, editing's an important thing. And it was important to Romero, so I don't know. But that's the fucking version you watched. And I should also mention there's also a 3D version of Dawn of the Dead that Richard P. Rubenstein produced. Like, it's basically the theatrical cut, but they went in and added 3D effects, which is what Beyond Fest played, I think maybe 2016 or 17. I can't remember what year we played it and had Rubenstein come out for that. And that's also the version we played in 2018. The version we're playing this Black Friday is going to be 2D regular standard Dawn of the Dead. So, I mean, I'll say this about the 3D cut. It's not bad. It's like, you know, it's not annoying. It doesn't get in the way. It kind of works. But like, does there need to be a 3D cut of Dawn? Not necessarily, but it's not bad it exists. That's my opinion on it. So now we talked about all these different versions of Dawn, and we are focusing on the theatrical cut, not whatever the fuck you watched today. But let's talk about how did Dawn of the Dead come about, really. So firstly, Romero originally wanted to avoid doing any kind of sequel to Night of the Living Dead because he didn't want to be pigeonholed as a horror filmmaker. Which is why his follow-up to Night was this movie called There's Always Vanilla, which is more of a kind of drama. It's not a bad movie, but it just didn't do the numbers, and I think Arrow, it's come out on DVD and Blu-ray, but when it's originally released, it was just kind of like, I hate to say a dud, but a dud. So, between working in industrial films and documentaries and stuff, Romero kind of went back into horror, and, you know, he didn't do it in a traditional sense. Like, he just kind of like, he made a movie called Season the Witch, aka Hungry Wives, aka Jack's Wife, which is like kind of the art house leanings of There's Always Vanilla, but like with a witchcraft angle kind of thing in there. And it got sold as like a sexploitation movie, even though it's not really that, you know? And then he made another movie, which is kind of a step back to straight ahead horror, which is The Crazies. And I think way back when the pandemic started, I did this episode called Grindhouse Epidemic because we didn't know how to do the fucking podcast at this point. And I did an episode on my own, and I think basically just phoned in your rewatch and listen. Did in depth, talked about The Crazies, and I remember one of the points I made with The Crazies is that it's a beefed up version of Night of the Living Dead in some ways, but it's also the template for Dawn of the Dead. So he basically this was like the step to kind of get him there, because like there's a lot of things in there that like, I'd say it's a good warm up for it. Like the things he's like doing is like he's upping the scope that he did at night. He's upping the carnage, and then like he's developing his editing style. He like Romero at this point was starting to develop a real like montage, like say like Eisenstein's Soviet montage type thing. Whereas like he like lots of fast cutting, like kind of proto like MTV style editing. I mean, Soviet montage is like one of the basic backbones of film editing, and like, but he did it in a way it was like boom, boom, boom. And the Crazies has this like frenetic fast pace when not necessarily I wouldn't say it's really a fast paced movie, but he builds things up in the editing, which is something he does in Dawn of the Dead as well. So this, I think if you want to watch Dawn, go watch Crazies. You'll see a lot of the Crazies in Dawn, just flat out. I think you'll actually see more of the Crazies in Dawn than maybe Night of the Living Dead in some ways, but that was a movie he had to make to kind of warm up to it. And then the next thing that basically happened was to get to Dawn of the Dead was it's what really was the movie that kind of really set it off was Martin, his like is he or is he not vampire movie. And the reason why Martin is really important, it's not because it's aesthetically close to the Crazies, because it's actually more in line with like Season of the Witch, because it's more kind of artsy. And there's some, again, is he a vampire? Is he not a vampire? And by the way, as we're recording this, they allegedly have found the long lost 3 to 3.5 hour cut of Martin. That's all in black and white. I remember on one of those Martin commentaries, I think it was the Lionsgate reissue, where he talks at length about like, man, I wish I still had that cut. It was my favorite version. Obviously, it wouldn't have been commercially viable to make this movie, but like I love this version, and then it disappeared. So years later, they found it. I mean, I think at this point, no one's actually popped it open and scanned it or watched it or anything like that. But it sounds like that version of Martin is found, which is really exciting because like it's kind of a bucket list like dream thing to be discovered, Mm-hmm. Like, it's weird that something like fucking Metropolis someone will find like new footage of that movie still in like a fucking attic in Argentina, but like a movie that was made in the States, developed at a lab, like fucking disappears.
Okay.
But back to, why Martin is important. Like basically Martin kind of put together Romero's team, the team he would basically have all the way through Day of the Dead. And I'm just going to name off these like people because they're all significant creative collaborators. You had producer Richard P. Rubenstein. You had actor and his one-time wife, Christine Forrest. You had actor John Apples, who also worked with casting and, appeared here and there in other movies. You had director of photography Michael Gornick. There's sound guy Tony Bubba, who also worked with Romero alumni Ed Harris, who was in Creepshow and Night Riders on one of Ed Harris's directorial movies, which was the Jackson Pollock movie. And of course, probably Romero's most famous collaborator at this point, actor, stuntman, and special effects legend Tom Savini. All these people worked with him on Martin. So basically, he had a crew that he could go out and do Dawn. And now that he has a team, another seed was planted. And that seed was when Romero was given a tour of Monroeville Mall. And, that kind of gave him the inspiration. It's like, okay, I know how to do this movie. There's a line in the film, I think Roger says it when they're in a helicopter and they're flying over. It's like, what the hell is this place? And like Steven's like, oh, it's a mall, one of those shopping malls. And like at a time, especially in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, that line was kind of laughable because malls had became such a staple of America.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fucking funny to think about that now.
Yeah, I mean, this movie just makes me nostalgic for hanging out at the mall, being dropped off at the mall when I was like 12 or 13, buying acid by the Sam Goody. Just walking around the mall, just tripping your balls off. Oh, fun times.
Shout out to Hartford Mall. But no, it's like, because in the 70s, shopping malls were a relative new thing, so not everyone had it. And it's funny that, like, mall culture, because you think in the 80s, like, you had stuff like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and, like, things that are very heavily dependent on, like, mall culture. And then what ended up happening is, like, now, most people don't know what the fuck a mall is.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, most people are just having stuff delivered to their home. It's like Amazon's the mall, and you can't really shop there. Your mall's on your fucking computer monitor. So it's funny that line has lived long enough to, like, become relevant again. Like, what the hell is that?
I've gone to the Glendale Galleria. I think that's what it is, the Galleria, and walked around and been like, wow, I kind of miss the mall.
It's a different vibe, and it's just like, I mean, what really killed the mall was prices.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you had Suncoast Video and stuff like that.
And next day shipping.
Next day shipping. Oh, yeah. Next day shipping and, like, Amazon Prime.
You know?
It's like, why leave the fucking house when, like, you can definitely get what you want next day?
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, there's something about, like, walking around a mall and just, you know, perusing stores and just looking at shit that you probably won't buy and then going to a store and ending up buying some piece of shit you don't really need.
Right.
It's something missing there. It's just weird that, like, malls have now vanished, and, like, one of the focal points of this fucking movie, like, barely existed when it was made, and now barely exists now. Something to think about. But having this mall location was, like, you know, that just gave him the cornerstone. And honestly, having the movie take place in the mall was kind of an ingenious move, because then obviously there's stuff that happens in this movie that happens before they get to the mall, but, you know, it becomes a one location movie, which is one of the perfect things for a low budget regional kind of horror movie, you know?
And it wasn't done as well again until Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Oh, god damn it. I didn't even think you would pull that out. That's I don't know, man. But the other thing about, like, having a mall as your focal point is that you have different shops. So you have different locations within the one location. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get variety and you get different looks, even though you're technically in just one location. The thing is, like, it's about if you watch the theatrical cut, not whatever that fucking abomination is that you watch, but it's around the 27-minute mark that, like, you get the first shot of the mall, and then, like, the rest of the movie essentially takes place there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if it's not the mall, it's nearby, like, where all those, like, you know, big rigs, like, tractor trailers are at.
Dude, I swear today when I was watching it, I was like, it's 40 minutes in and they get to the mall. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, this is taking for fucking ever.
No, it's supposed to be 27 minutes. And then the rest of the 2 hours of the runtime of the theatrical cut is in and around the mall.
Oh, man.
God damn, man. But, you know, so he has a location that makes it, you know, becomes this practical thing. And the last thing that kind of, like, sealed Dawn of the Dead and making happen was another horror legend had become aware of it and was like, hey, I'll give you some money. I want to be part of this. And that was, of course, you know, Dario Argento. And, you know, Argento, he's a producer, but he was also kind of an advisor on it, or a consultant. He actually flew Romero out to Italy and had him, like, you know, put him up in, like, some hotel and, like, fed him spaghetti every night. And, like, this is what Romero said. I'm not trying to be racist here.
I mean, come on, dog.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be racist. But Romero's like, yeah.
No fucking spaghetti jokes.
Look, they like spaghetti in Italy. I'm sorry. But anyway, Romero had said he would, like, you know, eat spaghetti every night, and he would just write there. And, like, Argento didn't have a say in, like, that creative process. Argento said, you can make the version you want, but when you're done, I'm going to recut the movie to a version I'm going to do out in the rest of your, like, non-English speaking countries. So that's basically what laid it in. And it was not only Argento, but it was his brother Claudio, and Alfredo Cuomo was another co-financer and, like, you know, producer on the movie. And, like, you know, we'll talk about that impact later in the episode, because, like, that also, it goes beyond just Dawn of the Dead with what they ended up doing. So we're going to take another quick commercial break, but when we return, more Dawn of the Dead here on the Cinematic Void Podcast.
Come on out and find My name is Martin, and I'm 84 years old. People think I'm crazy when I tell them how old I am, or else they think I'm some kind of ghost.
From the director of Night of the Living Dead, Martin, another kind of terror.
I just have a sickness. I just need to drink blood.
Welcome back. We've been talking about George A. Romero's immortal classic, Dawn of the Dead, here on the Cinematic Void podcast, and now we're going to talk about a little bit about the film itself. We're not going to do like a full kind of play-by-play like we did for The Fog, but we'll kind of hit on some major points and that kind of stuff as we go along. The first thing I want to talk about is the core cast of this movie, which is David Emge as Stephen, Ken Foree as Peter, Scott H. Reniger as Roger, and Galen Ross as Francine, which I think is a perfect fucking cast. I don't know.
You know, just imagine me doing that.
Just doing that. Doing the chef's kiss there. Yeah. I think, you know, the thing is they're all grounded in reality, and I think it all works. And I think if you miscast this movie, I think it tanks, but because they all work so well together, it's just like this perfect storm, because those are the four people that you have to be around. And like, they're all flawed, they all have issues, they all do unlikable shit at different points, but overall, you kind of root for them. So let's talk about basically the opening of this movie. And we were talking a little bit about this beforehand, and I'm going to talk about the shot, and then we'll talk about the other part of this here, is that basically the opening shot starts on this red carpet wall that kind of slowly zooms out and reveals Francine asleep, and then you get the title card, and then she like, there's like a shock cut or jump cut or something like that where she's awakened, and someone grabs her like, hey, are you okay? Like, you know, she just had a nightmare, but in reality, she just is waking up to a real nightmare. So you and I were trying to figure out, was fucking carpeted walls a thing in the 70s?
Yeah, like, was this ever done in homes, or was this just specifically for this kind of recording or like television studio? And I think it's probably, you know, you'd throw it up there and deaden the sound a bit. I guess it's the 70s. It looks cool, I guess. I
mean, the first scene actually takes place in like a news station kind of thing. And like, I think what's really right is that it's like the deaden the sound and like the cut down on bleed and shit like that.
Then you had mentioned though that, you know, people were putting up like shag carpeting in their vans, you know, just like to smoke weed in your van or whatever.
Yeah, like there's a shot later in Dawn of the Dead where like the biker gang has a van and they open the van, there's like carpet on that. So maybe just, I don't know. If you lived through the 70s, tell me, was there just carpet on everything? Did you open your mailbox and there was fucking carpeting inside? I don't fucking know. I mean, I've seen a lot of 70s movies, but like I feel like because this is opening shot and you can't help but fixate it because one, it's a blinding red fucking carpet on a wall. That kind of calls attention. So maybe now every time I watch a 70s movie, I'm just going to be looking for carpet in random places. Someone opens a fridge, fucking carpet in there, that kind of stuff. I don't know.
You know, it's just symbolism for what's to come. You know, the terror, the red behind her.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's also the other thing. I mean, it's obviously setting up. It's like there will be blood.
Yeah.
The way Dawn is supposed to be set up, and this is based on like one of the commentaries or interview I remember hearing from Romero. He basically said Dawn of the Dead takes place the day after the events of Night of the Living Dead. And I know that's kind of a hard jump because you got to think, you know, Night of the Living Dead's stark black and white, kind of lo-fi, like one of the great horror movies. And then you're getting to like poppy, kind of like, I don't want to say Technicolor, but definitely more colorful, comic booky kind of thing. But if you think about it, the logic makes sense because when you watch Night of the Living Dead, there's a lot of scenes of people watching TV, looking out for those news bulletins of rescue stations and shit like that. And one of the main plot points of like what's happening in this open scene Dawn is like they're putting up rescue stations that have been taken out and overrun with zombies. So they're basically sending people to go fucking die. And that's part of the debate going on. And like, you know, another thing I really like about this opening is like, I love newsroom movies, like, you know, newspaper or TV times, you know, stuff like fucking Network's my shit. Right. Same with All the President's Men and that kind of stuff. I love newsroom movies. So like the fact that it kicks off with that is just like that's my fucking chef's kiss here. And then, you know, you also get George Romero and Christine Forrest's little cameo in this movie because they're in the switcher room, I guess, where they're like putting up the the rescue stations or, switching cameras and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's really cool. It's like a nice little cameo because I think Romero and her were supposed to have a different cameo where they were supposed to be part of the biker gang and he was supposed to be dressed as Santa and she was supposed to be dressed as one of the elves. Yeah. Or they were going to do both. I don't know. The big thing is, like, you have Francine not sure what to do. She's on the air, like, saying, hey, you're giving bad information about these rescue stations. Lots of yelling, people just walking off, throwing cameras around. And they got Steven roll up to her, who's the fucking, like, traffic reporter. It's like, yo, we're going to take the helicopter and we're getting the fuck out of here. And she has this moral dilemma about, like, abandoning her post. And then, like, one of the guys that's running the camera or took over one of the cameras after someone just said, fuck this and quit, offers, I think, a really great line in this movie. Because they're talking about, like, it doesn't matter. At midnight, emergency stations takes over TV. And he basically says, our responsibility is finished.
Yeah.
Which means it doesn't fucking matter anymore. It's like, it's out of our hands.
There's no news station tomorrow.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Just get in the helicopter and fuck out of here. Yeah. And it really hits kind of hard because it's like, after, I don't like keep on bringing up the pandemic, but like I can't help it with this movie because like you kind of see like the way things are handled is like it got too far ahead and there's too many different opinions on what should have been done. And instead of working together on like a solution, everyone's just fighting themselves. And when you fight yourselves, that just let shit spread, Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to say like metaphorically, but like if people were wondering where where we were at during the fucking beginning of the pandemic, just watch Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
It's just like people have different opinions. Sometimes they're overly political. Sometimes it's just people like arguing science and shit like that. People like, oh, a zombie invasion or like a epidemic could never really happen. Not after last year, dog. I believe anything could happen.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, it just takes like a couple people like, I don't fucking care about this, whatever. Or, no, I don't agree with this. I'm going to let this happen. Which kind of leads into the next big scene, which is the Project House raid with the police. And at this point, you still haven't seen a fucking zombie in this movie. Yeah. That dread is there. And they're explaining like, get ups, whatever it kills, gets up and kills and that kind of stuff. And you're not sure why they're at this tenant house. And basically they basically have everyone from all the different project houses in this one building. And what happens is like they decide like the gang decides this is our people who are not getting on the turf, and they get in a shootout with the cops. And that's when you start seeing some of those Tom Savini effects. You get to see squibs. It's very Sam Peckinpah like, the squibs. So you have like entry and exit wounds, lots of blood coming out. But you don't get the big shit yet. You also get John Amplas, who is Martin, and Martin has a cameo in it. He plays Martinez, which I think in this day and age, you could never get a white actor to play a Hispanic character. And I don't think, obviously, Romero was of Cuban descent. So I don't think there's like any kind of like, I'm just saying like, it's the one thing in this movie that didn't age well was putting John Amplas in brownface. Mm-hmm. But I don't think there was any ill intent behind it. I think it's just more or less, hey, John, we want to give you a cool role. We want you to be unrecognizable from Martin. This is what we do. It's more of like a theatrical standpoint because you got to think of like a lot of the people Romero cast were like theater actors. And like things were different then. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Not defending, not calling out as this big issue, but it is the one thing that just didn't age well in this movie. Especially for how political and like philosophical and just like how on the nose, especially after last year, this movie hits. So you also have the racist cop. Seems legit, especially in the last year or last several years. You have Wooly, who's mad because a bunch of poor people have it better than him. That's kind of the mantra of like right-wing stuff fed to like other poor people. It's like, these poor people have it better than you do. It's like, no, you're all fucking poor. And then Wooly basically taking out his like rage and just goes through just fucking gunning once he gets into the projects or inside the building, And that's where you get your first big effect, which is that head explosion. Mm-hmm. You remember when you first saw that head explosion when like he kicks in the door and just blows that dude's fucking head off?
Oh yeah.
It's really quick, but it's just like, oh shit. And like that's the moment in the movie you realize like Romero, Savini, they're not fucking around.
It's going down.
It's going down, and it's getting real, because like when you blow someone's fucking head off in a movie, like this is pre-scanners, so like I don't think there's a exploding head in a movie before Dawn of the Dead. I could be wrong. The other thing you gotta think about, and this is gonna kind of backtrack here, is like between Night and Dawn, there wasn't a lot of like zombie movies. There was like obviously the Blind Dead movies coming out of Spain, as well as like Living Dead and Manchester Morgue. Those are like the two bigger ones, and like Manchester Morgue is obviously influenced by Night of the Living Dead, and there's extreme gore in there too. But like really between Night and Dawn, there's not a lot of zombie stuff. Mm-hmm. And also like this is kind of the beginning of the effects boom, because you had Dick Smith doing the effects for The Exorcist and that kind of stuff. But like that exploding head is like such a game changer, because it changes. It's like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen after this.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of get in there. Woolie's going ape shit. Roger tries to stop him. And then you get the first appearance of Peter Ken Foray with one of those gas masks on. And he just fucking caps the dude, because he's just like running amok. And he kicks open one of the doors where there's a bunch of zombies in it. And then you have these, you know, they go and trying to kill these zombies. And you're like, oh, these are undead. But then you get kind of this moral thing where they're telling this one cop, like, shoot in the head kind of thing. And the guy can't do it, because it's just like, he's scared. It's like, is it a person? What the fuck is it? And it just creates chaos. And like, that's kind of the moral dilemma of the movie. It's like, people being too emotionally invested, like, these are people. And are they people or whatever? You know what I mean? Because that one cop that couldn't shoot the zombie, who eventually does shoot the zombie, fucking kills himself after he fucks everything up. Mm-hmm. Which also leads to that one zombie like shambling around and finds his wife, and then takes a bite out of her neck and her arm, which is, again, another game-changing thing. There was definitely some zombie eating flesh in Night of the Living Dead, as well as Manchester Morgue, but like that bite that zombie takes out of that woman's neck, holy fucking shit.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy. Rewatching it recently, it's like, it's so seamless. It's fucking insane.
When the cops are debating, like, should I shoot him or whatever, you know, this film makes it explicit where the line is, but you know, there's a point where you see someone else as another.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because like you have all the newscasters, you have all the scientists, you have like all kinds of stuff going on, but then like towards the end of the Project House raid, where Peter and Roger go in that little like basement area where they dumped a bunch of zombies, and they start fucking capping them. Mm-hmm. Basically cleaning house of like a lot of the zombies that like they were saving, because like these people were like, these are our friends and family. We don't want them burned. Mm-hmm. And then you have that priest show up, the one-legged priest, after when like Roger and... Right, no, actually that's before they go and... Sorry, I'm getting off track here, but like before they go and like cap all those zombies in the basement, they come across the one-legged priest, who's like basically saying, you know, you gotta stop the killing or you lose the war kind of thing. But like, if you don't kill the zombie, they're gonna kill you. So it's just, people have all these like moral dilemmas. But like, I think when like Roger and Peter just like know that like these things are fucking dead, fuck them, kill them.
Right.
But at the same time, we need to get the fuck out of here, because Roger's like, yo, my homie's got a helicopter. Let's bounce.
Yeah.
So they do. And that's when we kind of get into like heading towards the mall, or, you know, trying to find a direction. And like, it's kind of crazy because like, you know, they're flying over what they say it's like, not, I think they're already past Harrisburg at this point, but like they have the rednecks out, mm-hmm. who are like, just think they're out fucking hunting. So you get another kind of wrinkle in how like zombie human relationship, where like these rednecks are just like, shit, yeah, we're gonna fucking shoot some things. Mm-hmm. And there's like a little montage in there, and they're like drinking beer, and like the fucking National Guard and the Army are kind of making fun of these dudes, but like they're just out fucking just shooting shit. And it's kind of like that disconnect. It's like you have people that are morally thinking this is wrong to kill someone, even though they're undead or whatever. And then you have people like, woohoo!
Yeah.
It's crazy because like there's different stuff. And, you know, they're flying over, and eventually they're going to stop and get gas because they don't know where the fuck. I think the plan was to get to Canada. Because even now, the plan for a lot of people is to get to Canada because like they have health care. You know, I think they have better weed in Canada. They have hockey. There's some cool bands. I guess they keep their borders tighter, so like you could fly your helicopter over Canada and be straight. But, you know, they land at some random like dink airport where like a couple things happen. You get the helicopter zombie gets the top of his head chopped off, which is my least favorite effect in the movie, you know. I don't know how you feel about it.
It was alright.
Yeah, I think because the head ended up making like a flat top, so it looked like a fucking Frankenstein. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't think the effect's bad. It's just like, it's not my favorite effect. That's fair. I mean, I don't know if that's fair. I shouldn't say it's fair for me to dislike it. I know that might be someone else's favorite effect, but you have that. You also get the poster zombie, the one that's on the fucking poster, the bald-headed zombie in the flannel shirt. Mm-hmm. That, like, basically Steven tries to shoot and then misses, and then, you know, Peter comes up to him and is like, never aim a gun at me, you know, someone you don't intend to shoot at or something, mister, kind of line. Where you have all this tension. Tension from getting gas. And, you know, once they gas up, they land at this mall, you know? And you get Roger's infamous, what the hell is this? And from there on, it comes down to, like, we could get some supplies and leave, or we can make this shit work. Now, they have to do some ballsy shit to secure this mall. It's not just, it's a process. Because, like, they do a couple, like, dry runs of, like, getting stuff and, like, making sure the zombies don't follow them up. You also have that Hare Krishna zombie that goes after Francine that sneaks up and, like, they have to kill, but they can't shoot because call attention to themselves. And then, like, you know, they devise this plan. So the good portion of this movie is coming up with this plan to secure them all. And it's quite elaborate. And I think if someone was trying to make Dawn of the Dead today, you couldn't do it this way. You couldn't have scenes of, like, you know, all right, we're going to map this out. We're going to do okie dokes. We're going to get these tractor trailers. We're going to block the entrance so they don't have leverage to get in. Like, you wouldn't get any of that shit. They might have done, I don't even think they did that in the Dawn remake. I think they did some stuff like that, but, like,
they just locked the fucking door.
Just lock that. There's no fucking planning. And, like, you know, because, like, it's elaborate. It's a lot of back and forth. Like, you see them, like, dropped off the helicopter or whatever. They go pick up these tractor trailers, take one, and then, like, they have to drive back and get another one. Like, this tedious thing. But it also shows where, like, Roger starts getting cocky and he's not paying attention and he almost gets fucking ate picking up one of these trucks. And then he still gets cocky and leaves his, like, fucking bag where he's using the hot wire, all these things. They have to go back and get it. And then he gets bit. And it makes things more difficult. But, you know, as what happens in this movie, they decide to hotwire one of the fucking cars in the mall. Do you remember going to the mall and seeing cars in the mall?
Hell yeah, you could win one.
Yeah, you could win. Did anyone ever win a fucking mall car?
I mean, did anyone ever try?
That's probably the fairer point because, like, I think it's one of those things. So I was like, yeah, I could win a car, but, like, I feel like you had to do something elaborate to win one of those fucking cars.
But it's some shit where you just have to, like, you win the car, but you pay all the fucking taxes on it, and you're out, like, fucking a bunch of money that you didn't intend to spend in the first place. It's a fucking racket.
Yeah, you don't really win a car. You're still paying for that car. You just basically put in for a raffle to buy a car or pay partially for a car. But, you know, they have to secure the mall, and they're like, hey, the car is the fastest way to do it. And you get another thing where they're driving around the mall, and they're locking doors, and they're shooting, and they're like, all right, we're going to go for a hunt. And then you get kind of at the end where, like, all these dead zombies are all that, and they're like, in theory, they won. They secured the place.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when, you know, things started to turn because, like, they're trying to make normalcy out of being in the mall. And, like, there's one point after they clean it up and they got all kinds of stuff and they went shopping. I'm using shopping in quotes kind of thing. Like, they hear the zombie still banging outside where you get all in Peter's "There's no more room in hell" speech about his grandfather being a priest in Trinidad, Macumba and that kind of stuff. And it just kind of realizes, like, they're secure for now, but it's still fucking hopeless because where are they going to go? They have to stay in the mall. Like, they have every luxury except freedom.
Right.
And that's kind of the cool dynamic. Is just, like, they have security, but, like, it's not really security. they're watching like the emergency channel, and they have this scientist played by Richard France, who incidentally enough was in Romero's Crazies, and he's got an eye patch, and he's basically saying like things people don't want to hear. It's like, let's use our nuclear options. Let's bomb every major city. We'll get rid of most of the zombies that way.
I tell you what, I'd probably take Fauci a little more seriously if he had an eye patch.
Fuck. Imagine if he had an eye patch. I mean, there is that one fucking asshole congressman that has one.
Yeah, fucking Dan, whatever. Fuck.
The one that Pete Davidson made fun of, and then he had to apologize to, and then the guy said something fucking completely like asinine, and then, I don't know. No, but Richard France's character is kind of really important because like he's saying things that like people don't necessarily like, and people were like, it's that moral ground of like, what do you do with these zombies? It's like, if they bite you, you become one. So you have to eliminate them. And then I think his other option was to fucking start feeding them and like domesticate them, which is kind of funny because that's what they started working on in Day of the Dead with like Dr. Frankenstein and Bub. Mm-hmm. Like they started rewarding him by feeding him if he could, do things. So it's interesting that like that's the through line from Dawn to Day was that part of it. So the option's like, well, if you don't want to get rid of them, you have to fucking feed them, because if you don't feed them, they're going to fucking eat you. And it's not even that they need to eat. It's just the idea of eating, because it's just something that's instinctually there. Because they're down to like just being primitive. Or you just fucking nuke everywhere.
Right.
And
I'm trying to think. I know that there was maybe one called like Fido or something where they took that idea and completely to its
it's logical or illogical conclusion.
It's illogical confusion. I guess they did that in Shaun of the Dead as well, and probably a few others at this point. As many fucking zombie movies as they've made.
Yeah, and but this one is like, it's not a joke. It's not a thing. It's just like,
yeah.
It's like,
what
that's
else are you gonna do with these fuckers?
Yeah, because like basically the more you let them continue, the more they're going to continue to breed. Mm-hmm. And like, with Day, you get a little more answers because you start seeing how the zombies are decaying and still functioning and that kind of stuff. So basically these motherfuckers could just be skeletons walking around at some point. I don't think Romero ever got a zombie to that far of a point. Because like the only way a zombie dies in these movies is fucking brain gets shot.
Right. Because it's got to rot off at some point.
Yeah. That has to be like what eventually happens. But, they've taken them all at this point, and then that's when Roger dies, and he has his big zombie turn. And it's during like that speech where he's like, we have to remain, what's the fucking thing he says? Unemotional. We have to remain unemotional, and fucking Peter has to fucking cap Roger because he turned. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just like the movie just keeps going like darker and darker. Like they are literally in a fucking prison.
Yeah. Of their own design.
Yeah. I mean, is it safer than the zombies out there? In some ways, but some ways not. It's definitely like how deep this movie is just like the mental deterioration. It's like, just think of like the pandemic and like having to stay inside in one place for long periods of time.
I mean, look, if there's a fucking gym in there, if there's a grocery store, which there probably isn't in a mall, but like, I don't know, I guess you got your food courts and whatnot, right? Yeah. So you got some food for a little while that you can make. But like, you're fucking set, dog. You're set for a minute.
Yeah, but you also got to think of the mental wear of like being in the same place.
And we're all eventually going to be living in pods.
Well, I mean...
eating bugs, living in pods.
I mean, we could already be in the Matrix. We're just fucking batteries.
Or that, yeah.
But I'm just saying, like...
we're just batteries.
We're just fucking batteries. We're just feeling fucking Jeff Bezos fucking like, launch in space,
That's for sure.
The thing is just like, you get cabin fever.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can go, like there's a bit where Peter is playing like racquetball or tennis by himself on the roof, like hitting the ball back and forth as like some form of exercise. And like, that's the extent of going outside and getting sunshine and stuff like that, because you're also depriving yourself of like vitamin D and that kind of stuff.
Oh, so far you're still, I'm not convinced. I'm throw me take me to the mall. Let's go. If I can get on the roof and get some sun too, fucking lock me in.
I mean, it might work for some people, but like I think eventually it's just like, my mentally I deteriorated a lot.
We got a bookstore. We got everything.
You got everything. It's like, but see,
video games. I can watch movies all day, read, exercise, go on the roof, get some sun, cook. Fuck, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I'm saying mentally for me, I would eventually just fucking jump off the roof and let
Especially if I'm there alone, then I'm fucking good.
Yeah, because you don't have to deal with anyone else. But like, no, I'm just saying, like, my pandemic experience is like I literally had burnout and mental fatigue for being like, I mean, we obviously went out and did stuff. We were at the drive-in and things like that, but like, you know, there wasn't much else. It's like you'd go for drives and stuff like that, but like, you know, like I got serious fucking burnout, mental fatigue from this goddamn fucking pandemic, and like just the thought of being in one place, even with everything at my fingertips, having every fucking book, or at least every book that was published up until like before shit shut down, or like, you know, have a variety of food and like, you know, being able to play video games and stuff like that. Eventually, because you only have those options are going to eventually start wearing out. Or maybe it's just how I relate to it now, where like you live in a realm of technology, you know, because like, you know, when Dawn of the Dead is made, you only had like, you had vinyl records or cassettes or 8-tracks. You know, you had certain movies you could watch. You know, you had certain video games. It's not like you have a smartphone during 1978 that will constantly update where you get like new apps and like new games and like
Atari sucks.
Yeah. It kind of does. Like when you watch them play some of those fucking video games, it's like that shit's whack, man.
Yeah.
And it's just like fucking jump off the roof and get eaten by the zombies. I can't play Pac-Man anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying from my personal standpoint, mentally, like I feel like everything would start losing its edge and it would just all seem the same.
For sure.
Maybe not for you, but for me. And I think at some point I'd just say fucking jump off the roof and let the zombies eat me.
There you go.
Or that just might be like the fucking pandemic burnout talking for me. Because there's times it's like, I just want to get the fuck out of here and go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people did during the pandemic, but like, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I joke, you know, it's like, but I will say that half the time, maybe more than half the time, I wasn't so bummed being stuck in my house. I'll put it that way. I've got, you know, I could entertain myself for quite some time.
I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, it wasn't all bad, but it's just, I'm saying, like, just coming out of it and realizing, like, mentally.
Mm-hmm. You feel a little better now.
I feel a little better, and I feel uneasy at the same time, which kind of leads into the next thing, where it's, like, dealing with other people, because you have your own pod of people you deal with. Like, you know, I saw you during the pandemic. I saw my wife and that kind of stuff, and I saw different people that drive in, but, like, outside of going, like, the fucking grocery store, and at a certain point, like, that got cut back, because we just started having food delivered. You know, groceries delivered. Unless I had to go to Trader Joe's. Like, I didn't interact with, like, really people I didn't really know. And when I did, it got fucking scary. Like, I remember fucking meltdown after every time I went to Trader Joe's to go get something. Because I couldn't get it at Whole Foods. Because, you know, being vegan, sometimes your options are split up. I don't know how I'd be vegan during the pandemic. I probably wouldn't be. Or not pandemic, I mean, like, through a Dawn of the Dead scenario. You know? I mean, I guess there's cans of beans and shit like that, but, like, I think that'd be, like, deprioritized, honestly, if I was going through that. But that's a debate for another day. But interacting with other people outside of your pod, every time I went to fucking Trader Joe's, there was someone having a fucking meltdown. And it was, like, someone, like, I remember one time I was there and some guy's like throwing the biggest shit fit I've ever seen in a grocery store because he grabbed a thing of cheese and it was moldy. He's like, we're in a fucking pandemic and this cheese is moldy. And they're like, all right, sir, we'll go ahead and check you out now.
All right, sir, you just answered your own fucking question.
Yeah, it's
Stop
like
being a baby.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like I saw it multiple times. I saw people get almost in fights over fucking items of food. Which kind of leads to the next part of the mall thing is when, you know, there's a bit where Francine's like, I want to know how to fly the fucking helicopter in case we have to get out of here. Of course, by her learning how to fly the helicopter, it caught the attention of a traveling biker gang.
Right.
And those are the people, not necessarily the people at Trader Joe's, but those are the people that have malicious intent and are looking to start shit and don't give a fuck about your feelings or
you know
what you're doing.
You know, as far as suspension of disbelief goes, you know, the zombie thing I can deal with, but my entire life, it's always been it's always been made to seem that flying a helicopter is like serious business. Like you can't learn to fly a helicopter in a couple hours or in a day. So that was the one part of this movie where I'm like, all right, this isn't fucking real.
I mean, you only get to see a day in the life here. I mean, I know this movie kind of goes over things that shows you in detail, like the multiple things they do, but like, I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say there's been multiple times that she's like practiced flying.
It's actually pretty funny how it's just like, this is how it goes up, this is how it goes down. Like, that's it.
And
like,
she's like, yeah!
Like, all right, you fucking just learned how to fly a helicopter then, all right.
Congratulations. Like, that guy had to go to fucking like air traffic school or some shit like that. And it's like, here, let me bestow my knowledge to you in like 15 minutes of being in a helicopter. I actually believe for this movie, like, there's probably like more training. We just didn't have to see it in the movie.
Of course.
But this is after like showing you meticulously how they fucking shut off the mall, you know?
Right.
But
right. They spent so much time showing off the mall. Not that anyone really needs to see a whole tutorial on
how to
flying
fly
a helicopter.
But, I mean, you know, I'm surprised
for the sake of progress in the film here.
I mean, I'm surprised in the version you watched they didn't have have that in there. Fucking 30-minute scene of her learning how to fly. This is the on-off switch. This is how you make the propellers. This is how I'm just fucking with you at this point. But the bigger picture is that they're now on the radar of some fucking not so good people, and you know this is like
the bad guys,
the looters. Like, you know, when we were going through all that shit last summer during like Black Lives Matter protests and stuff, like, you know, there's people honestly protesting stuff, and then you had people that were there just to steal shit. These are the dudes here just to steal shit, or just to steal shit, I should say. And
the old bad guy biker trope.
Yeah, but like, I think these are legit played, I think these were legit played by a biker gang. I think they said the Pagans, which was the actual biker gang from where we're from.
Okay.
Like, there's the Hells Angels is basically like a California based like biker gang, and Pagans was kind of East Coast. And they did stuff like run drugs and stuff like that. My mom's side of the family had a few like relatives that were in the gang that had to go witness protection and that kind of shit.
Hell yeah, right on.
Crazy fucking shit. But anyway, so you have this biker gang, and this is where you get Tom Savini, who's actually popped up in the movie several times because he does a lot of the stunts. So anytime you see, like, it's either him or his assistant who are doing stunts. So he's doing all the fucking baller effects, and he was doing stunts. Because Savini's like, fuck it, I'm just going for it. But this is his acting role, and he's got that fucking switchblade mustache comb or whatever. And, like, basically, the biker gang's like, we're going to take your shit.
Hey, so real quick. So back in the day, maybe before you, was your dad ever the type of guy to, like, ride a motorcycle?
He did have a motorcycle.
He kind of looks like the kind of guy that maybe did some badass shit back in the day.
He had a fucking Triumph motorcycle when I was a kid, and then he got rid of it because he was afraid I would try to ride it. I'm like fucking 2. I'm not gonna figure out how to ride a motorcycle. So to this day I don't understand why he got rid of his Triumph.
The boy might steal it.
Like, I'm a fucking 2-year-old. I'm not gonna fucking steal your Triumph, Dad. Like, I don't understand why he got rid of it. Like, it still boggles my mind. But my dad had a Triumph motorcycle.
Okay.
And kind of wish he still did. Like, I feel like he gave something up he didn't have to.
I think that he and your mom should get some of those like big ass bikes, you know, they're just like sitting on a fucking couch, you know?
Oh, those like
just
fucking,
like cruise around Hartford County.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's like over 80 now, so I don't think motorcycles is
nice leisurely ride, you know?
Yeah, fuck.
A Sunday cruise.
Yeah, I think my dad's past that point wanting to do that, but but no, without my dad being part of this gang, you have the biker siege. You basically, what, you know, Ken Ford is, Peter says, like, this is a professional army coming in here. All they do is fucking loot, steal, and like survive on the road. And basically all that hard work, and this is what kind of makes it work, that like all the tedious part of like securing them all, locking it off, is like basically in like 5 minutes these fucking bikers are in, and all the fucking zombies are back in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
And they're stealing stuff, and then you get that other moral thing that's happening in this movie, which is Steven is now protective of the space. And whereas like Peter and Francine are more like, let's just secure ourselves and make sure we're safe and be prepared to fucking roll out if we need to.
Mm-hmm.
What side of this do you sit on? Do you try to secure and save do you fight for them all, or do you get the fuck out?
I mean, again, I guess I was kind of joking, but I'm definitely pro mall here. You know, where else are we going? Is there, I mean, I guess that, I guess really is the question is like, how hopeful are you? How hopeful are you is that there's something better, there's something better out there to go to get rescued from that. But yeah, I think at this point, I'm at the mall. This is the best we're getting. We found the fucking jackpot. We got it secured. Let's fucking keep it secured.
So that's the big moral dilemma. And like you're pro mall, you would try to fight to save it. And I've had different times I watch this movie. I've thought of alternate scenarios that could happen. Like, do you hide, let the bikers raid, and then go about resecuring the mall?
No, that's my mall. Fuck those bikers. We're good. It's on.
So there's 3 of you. There's 3 of you against like 30, 40, 50 bikers.
But there's a gun store.
Yeah, but
and we're pretty well stocked. I guess there's 3 of us. We're cops. 2 of us are cops.
Well, one of you is a cop.
One at this point.
One cop. The other cop's dead. You have a fucking like.
I mean, I guess I'm saying I'm assuming I'm somewhat trained.
Yeah. I mean,
am I me? What's going on here? Am I him?
I don't know, man. I guess think of that is a good fucking point. Are you? Are you Steven? Or like
Jesus Christ? But yeah, I guess it really is the more pessimistic view. I think is probably staying at the mall. Really, but well, I don't know though. But I'm saying though, maybe there's nothing better out there, and maybe this is maybe I found the jackpot.
Because like here are your options. You fight the bikers, and we see how that went in the movie.
Yeah.
You basically lose them all. Do you just hide and let them take whatever they want and then go about resecuring it and realizing it's going to be a tedious process again and knowing full well that it could happen again? Mm-hmm. And then you have to figure out how to secure them all even more. And this is the other thing you're talking about because, like, the zombies are one factor, but then you're dealing with other people, which is another parallel to what we just went through. It's like you have people getting sick, dying, spreading, that kind of stuff. And then you have people that are just like, don't give a fuck, making things worse.
Do you think that these bikers are, is their mission just to rampage and a little conquering, or are they, is it a siege for the mall? Are they taking the mall? Like, do you think, does that seem to be the intent here? No. So like maybe they are just gonna, it's a little fly by night, break some shit, take a couple things, as much as they can carry.
Yeah.
And then take off, right? So then I come out and go, all right, well, let's fucking board this shit up.
I don't think the bikers definitely don't want the mall. They just want the shit in the mall because their whole thing is like, this is the other side of the pandemic. It's like refusing to be locked in a space, refusing to like, wait it out. It's like, fuck it. We don't care. We're on the road. We're out here. Fuck zombies, fuck disease, whatever. We're just doing whatever the fuck we want. And in fact, because it's now in the scenario, they could be like, there's no fucking rules. Mm-hmm. And they're already outlaws, so if you're an outlaw and there's no fucking rules, you're loving this shit.
Oh yeah, this shit is sick.
You're fucking thriving in this. You're thriving in the fact that people are scared because not only are they scared of zombies, they're fucking scared of you.
Okay, I've got my answer. I'm joining their crew.
But would they accept you is the thing.
I don't know.
Because like the thing is, it's like the bikers don't give a fuck that you're living or dead. It's just about taking shit. It's like, that's mine. Fuck you, that's mine. Mm-hmm. And that's the other dynamic. And then, but you have Steven who says, no, fuck you, it's mine. Because like I think the plan was like just let them go through and see, and then just kind of wait it out. And like I think one theory is maybe if they didn't fuck with them, they just see if they could resecure them all, or they just take all their supplies and shit and just go somewhere else. Or there's different things, but that didn't happen because they engaged with the bikers, and also kind of fucked up the bikers too, because then the bikers are like think it's an easy like take shit run, and then the bikers are now engaged in trying to fucking kill the people in the mall. Steven and Peter, and Peter just starts fucking sniping a bunch of them, And then because they get sloppy and they're not paying attention, a bunch of them get eaten. There's also the one asshole in the fucking sombrero with the swastika on his shirt that decides to get his fucking blood pressure read. But I think that's just a fucking gag. That's all that is in the movie. It's just like, what other fucking ridiculous zombie gag can we have in here? Oh, we'll just have some idiot getting his blood pressure taken while there's zombies everywhere. You have that. You have Steven getting shot, and he's trying to escape through the elevator, and then the zombies come, and basically he gets bit, and he becomes, King Zombie. And this is the most interesting thing, because, like, you kind of wonder what the intelligent level of the zombie is.
Mm-hmm.
And how much memory they have of their old life. Because the whole point of Dawn of the Dead is, like, why are they coming to the mall? It's just something they remembered they did when they were alive. So there's just some put in memory. And the thing that happens, because you got to remember in the mall, at a certain point after they take it over, they want to hide where, like, the access to where they're at. Because in case someone comes in, like the bikers did, they can't find where they're holed up and have all their storage stuff, so they can hide out there and then kind of decide if they're going to retake the mall and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
King Zombie Steven, on the other hand, knows where they're at and goes directly there trying to get back because he has a memory like, this is where my friends and family are.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an interesting dynamic if you think about it.
Right.
And he basically leads all the zombies up to where Peter and Fran are hanging out. And this is a point we can talk about, the original ending versus the ending you get in the film. So the original ending of Dawn of the Dead was pretty bleak. They kill Steven as he rolls in, and then, Peter's like, I don't want to go on. Peter fucking shoots himself. Francine goes to fly the helicopter, kind of realizes, like, I don't want to do this on my own. I'm pregnant. I can't, do any. I don't want to deal with it. Sticks her head in the helicopter blade and fucking decapitates herself. Mm-hmm. And there's always been debate if they actually shot it or not. I know they made a cast of her head because that exploding head that we talked about earlier during the police raid, that's her head. Like, Savini kind of made it up to be like a black guy for that exploding head, but that's really a head cast of her that was supposed to be for the helicopter decapitation. And Romero actually thought about it and said, I don't want to make this movie that bleak.
Okay.
So he gave a little bit of hope, which is where, because you remember, like, Peter's at the end, he's got the gun to his head, and then he changes his mind, shoots the fucking zombie, and, like, runs up the stairs and joins Francine in the helicopter. And they're like, how much gas we got? Not a lot. Well, let's just go as far as we can go. And there's hope that they might get away. You don't really know. Zombies get them all back, and they seem happy. And then you get that music cue of the gong. Just kind of plays out like this weird upbeat thing the way they end the movie. And, I kind of talking about it like just basically off emotions and like some facts of this. Like, is the ending of the movie actually upbeat? It's like, where the fuck are they going to go?
Like I say, you're fucked either way. You're fucked at the mall. You're fucked out there. Which place are you less fucked?
Exactly. I mean, if Steven hadn't turned into a zombie and led everyone up there, they could have probably held up there and just kind of waited it out. But that wasn't the scenario. So, I always had a theory, and I thought it'd be weird because, like, when you watch the end of Day of the Dead, they have all those helicopters on the beach. I always kind of wonder if, like, the people from Day of the Dead found, like, Peter and Francine on whatever island they managed to get to or whatever. Yes. I always kind of wonder if that helicopter was a homage thing. I don't know if Romero ever addressed it or not, but because there's also a helicopter in Day of the Dead. Romero liked helicopters.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, they're fun. But, that's where it is. So that's just us talking about Dawn of the Dead and just kind of our thoughts and stuff, but we're going to take another break here, but when we return, we're going to wrap up talking about Dawn of the Dead on the Cinematic Void podcast.
I don't think I'd ever actually get in a helicopter.
No, it's kind of scary.
Please, GCA, this is Army 212, 7 miles northwest, low fuel, heavy weather.
Army 212, radar contact, turn right, heading 150.
With a fog-bound helicopter hanging on your every word. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, only that you're good.
Slowly.
Roger.
Overlanding threshold.
Be all that you can be.
Thanks for your help.
Roger.
You can do it in the Army.
Unbearable suspense that keeps you on the edge of an abyss of terror.
Take a cult film odyssey into cinemadness with Cinematic Void. Based in Los Angeles, Cinematic Void is a film series that specializes in horror and exploitation films. Currently, we are hosting Cinematic Void Up All Night in the Cinemadness Movie, a monthly virtual screening series, as well as the Cinematic Void podcast, where we dive deeper into the world of cult cinema. You can find Cinematic Void on the World Wide Web at cinematicvoid.com, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you like what we do, you can support Cinematic Void by joining our Patreon. Until next time, see you in the Void. Welcome back. We've been talking about Dawn of the Dead here on the Cinematic Void podcast, and kind of to wrap up talking about it, we're going to talk a little bit about some other things that not necessarily has to do with the actual movie itself, but things that went into making the movie, and basically the film's overall legacy. And the first thing I want to talk about is Romero's aesthetic and style for this movie, which was, again, I think the template was the Crazies, but he did a lot of he was the editor on this movie as well, so he did a lot of montages. I think there's a lot of montage cutting in this movie. And there's a little bit of camera movement. There's occasionally some zooms and some pans, but a lot of it's really static shots. I don't know if you noticed that on this rewatch, even though you watched the fucking stupid long fan-made cut or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. There's some zooms and whatnot, but not many.
No, it's basically like, I don't want to say like a puzzle, but it's it's definitely fluid to that whole montage style. And one thing I always found very interesting about this movie, or Romero talking about it, there's a documentary that Roy Frumkes, who wrote and produced Street Trash, did, called Document of the Dead, where they talk about Romero at a certain point in the production of Dawn, they were ahead of schedule, so he started improvising stuff. And then he would actually talk to Savini. He's like, come up with another gore gag because we want to punch something up here, or hey, we have a continuity error. Let's figure out how to solve this continuity error. So they started improvising and just adding shit. And I think at one point, Dario Argento had come out to visit the set just to see how things were going. And he's watching Romero direct and okay, we're going to turn the camera here. Let's start doing this stuff. And I think Argento was like, holy shit, I've never seen, I don't even know how to direct a movie like this. This is incredible that you can just work that fast and then improvise and turn things around that quick. Because they shot a lot of stuff. And basically it's we have room and money to experiment because it's low budget. There's no studio sitting there counting money days and all that, because it was an indie regional horror film. And that's one of the things I really love about this movie, is just there's a freedom to it that Romero didn't necessarily have after that, because you got to think he was moving on to bigger things. He had made his really most personal movie, Night Riders, after it, and that does share a lot of Dawn in that, stylistic wise. But then you get to Creep Show and things after that, where I think things started to get a little more polished, a little more, I don't want to say mainstream. I'm not trying to say Romero was selling out, but he's trying to step up to going beyond being a regional filmmaker, because people like him and Tobe Hooper, and even Wes Craven, who came out of regional filmmaking, who are able to transition to, say, the big leagues. There's a lot of people that made a lot of incredible regional films that that's where they stayed. You got to think John Waters, regional filmmaker from Baltimore.
True.
Transition to the big leagues, which is even more incredible, but he did it in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, one of the things I think is the legacy is just how Romero made this movie. It's very, a lot of his movies up until, I'd say, maybe Creepshow, have a bit of a homemade feel to it. And it's also coming out of making industrial films and commercials and stuff. It's a different style of filmmaking. I know when we were doing the Fulci episode way back, and we did a little bit that I think only ended up on Patreon, where we're comparing Romero to Fulci, and and this wasn't a knock on Romero, just Fulci's more of a classic director, even though he doesn't get that credit, where Romero's more of a DIY, just kind of making up as he's going, because that's just different schools. But I think for this movie, this worked perfect. This, Martin's my favorite Romero movie, but I think deep down, for me, this is probably his best movie.
Yeah.
The other thing we got to talk about is the scores to this movie. Obviously, there's the Goblin score, which I remember picking up this soundtrack in the early 2000s on a trip to New York, because those were when those reissues were kind of coming out on vinyl. which is kind of funny now because you have all kinds of baller reissues of that. But like before that, early 2000s, like you're paying $20 for an import record, and like think of early 2000s paying $20 for a record, like a new record. Yeah, that was insane. Now it'd kill to pay fucking $20 for a record because like now they're like what, $35 new or some shit.
Yep,
insanity. But that Goblin score, and basically that was more for Argento's, you know, cut of the movie, and like obviously Romero could use it, and I don't think Romero was too keen on everything in there. Like he wasn't big on the score, the Goblin score, which is why he used, I think, the cues he liked where he thought it was appropriate, and then he used a lot of library cues, and that's where you get the stuff like the gonk, the dun dun dun. And there's one cue that I used to think was a Goblin cue until I got the, you know, unreleased like library cue soundtrack of Dawn of the Dead. It's called like Sunrise. It's kind of like a funky like 70s like prog song. It's, you know, if I didn't know better, I would think it was a Goblin song until I actually heard it. I mean, he picked some really good stuff, and then there's obviously like kind of canned cheesy stuff that can hear in other things. Like there's a couple cues that I think end up also being in Monty Python and the Holy Grail at different points.
Oh wow,
because it's just canned library music that they bought to use. And I think both of those, because like the gonk, I don't know which thing do you think is more synonymous with Dawn of the Dead music wise? Is it the gonk or is it the Goblin score?
I mean, I actually think of the Goblin score, like when I think of Goblin, I associate it more with Dawn of the Dead than I do even like Suspiria and that stuff. Like I think it's only because I heard it first.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as it kicks in this movie, it's just, that's the, you know, even though Romero didn't like it, I mean, that's the fucking vibe, man.
Yeah.
Like it really, it does. Like the Goblin in this movie just fits so fucking well. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've seen it so many times, but goddamn, it's just, that's exactly what I need.
Yeah. And I agree. I think the Goblin cues, especially the way Romero uses them, work really well. Counterpoint to the Argento cut where it's fucking wall, like basically he takes like the, I don't want to say like Suspiria, I think it's more like it's closer to how he like did his Suspiria score than Dawn of the Dead, and how he like wall to wall puts the music. I think it just kind of overkills and kind of like lessens the impact, where like the way Romero drops in the cues, I think it's really appropriate, and then you get some library cues in between just to kind of mix it up. But I think both are equally important. I think the Goblin score is like an all-timer Goblin score. Like, and this is definitely the first Goblin score I heard, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like I definitely saw Dawn of the Dead before I saw Suspiria or Deep Red. So it's always been kind of like a favorite, you know? And the next thing I want to talk about, even though we touched upon about it a little bit here as we were talking about the movie, is Tom Savini's effects. Like, the thing people don't realize, like, this was a fucking game changer. Like, everyone after this movie had to step up. Like, people were put on notice because you had Dick Smith, you know, Joe Blasco, who did some stuff for Cronenberg, who now he just makes makeup, like, you know, just regular makeup, doing effects. Like Savini, and then you had the Italian people like Carlo Rambaldi and like things like that, and like bunch of the Italian stuff that were doing stuff. But like Savini changed it to a point where like you couldn't just do a little bloodletting or a throat slit or anything like that. You had to be fucking crazy creative.
We're fucking exploding heads now.
Yeah, we're fucking blowing up heads. We have zombies taking big chunks out of people.
Mm-hmm.
You're ripping open people's stomach and pulling out guts and shit. Like, when you watch that, like, the end of Dawn of the Dead when the zombies are eating the bikers in the mall, it's fucking harrowing stuff. And I know at night there's a little bit of it, but, like, this is, like, people in pain, screaming in fear, getting eaten alive. And basically their last memory before they turn to a zombie is getting fucking eaten. And it's really effective. It's really dark. And obviously there's fun stuff too. There's like the screwdriver in the ear of the one zombie. And like, you know, there's stuff like that. And there's decapitation. There's that classic machete to that one zombie's face, which is really well done. But just, you know, I think overall it's like, I feel like Tom doesn't get the credit that he should. And I think part of that goes into Dawn's overall legacy, which is like, I think this was a game changer in like the fact that like even the Argento cut, as it played Zombie in Italy, you get the cash in of Zombie 2 directed by Lucio Fulci, and it kicked off that whole Italian zombie run.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there wasn't Dawn of the Dead Zombie, you wouldn't have Fulci Zombie, you wouldn't have the Beyond House by the Cemetery. It's like, you know, like none of that shit would have been around. And you had other zombie movies. And even look at it today, you would have no fucking Walking Dead. You would have no, like, countless whatever shit zombie movies that people make. You wouldn't have the Dawn of the Dead remake, obviously. But, like, the movie is very important, which is kind of a shame that, like, since the DVD era, it's been kind of in limbo. I know Second Sight put it out on Blu-ray and, like, 4K Ultra HD over in the UK, but for a US release, there hasn't been one since the Anchor Bay one. And I don't want to get into the reasons why. You can research and see that for yourself, but I think it's a shame that this movie's not more widely available. In that, like, you can just go on YouTube and watch some fan fucking edit of it, as opposed to seeing the more legit cuts. You know what I mean? I think the legit cuts are still on YouTube too.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I'm watching 2 hours and 40 minutes of something someone fucking put together in their editing system. But, I think, like, its lack of availability now kind of hurts Dawn's legacy because, like, Night of the Living Dead's been remastered, put out by Criterion, so it's more on the radar. Arrow put out, like, the in-between Night and Dawn movies, like The Crazies and, like, Season of the Witch, and There's Always Vanilla, but, like, Martin and Dawn are just stuck in limbo right now. And, like, I really hope a deal gets struck at some point that someone puts them out here. Second Sight's cool. I'm not disrespecting it, but, like, the average horror movie goer isn't also a Blu-ray collector or buying imports and shit like that. I mean, that's the one thing that scares me about Dawn's legacy is just the lack of availability. And I really hope that changes, and that's, another reason, like, I know we're only screening in LA, but that's another reason why I think it's important to be able to screen Dawn theatrically, like, more frequently, because, like, it's really one of the greatest horror movies ever made. It's like, you can debate what's the best movie of the 70s, and it's like, I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I love, Deep Red, and I love all that stuff, but, like, for a movie that was very important for getting me and building my basis and backbone to get into cult cinema, Dawn might be the most important. Not saying it's best or it's my favorite, but, like, to me, it's the most important. So, if you listen to this podcast, like, seek it out, see it any way you can, and when there is a legit US, like, nice Blu-ray edition, pick it up. And if you get a chance to see it in a theater, see it with a theater audience, because it absolutely kills. It's sort of like one of those movies that will work anywhere you watch it. It works watching it at home, but, like, seeing it with an audience, with a crowd that's, like, really into it or hasn't seen it or just discovering it, it's great. It's like anytime I've ever seen Jaws with a crowd. And you always have a few people who have never fucking seen the movie. It's eye-opening. And, like, watching with a crowd that hasn't really seen it or watching with a crowd that is very familiar with it, it's a great experience.
So is that at the Arrow on November 26th?
It is at the Arrow on November 26th. So if you're in Los Angeles or the Santa Monica area, tickets should be on sale. Well, they will be on sale while this podcast is out. I don't know where the ticket sales will be when this comes out. It could be sold out or there could be tickets left. But if there are tickets left, don't sit on the fence. Get them. See Dawn of the Dead with a crowd. It's really, like, one of the best movie-going experiences you can do. And since it's such a rarity now to be able to see it, come out and cherish it. And hopefully, like, if we keep screening it, scenario will change. There will be more access and more people will be able to screen it too. That's what I think is important. So we're going to take one last break on the Cinematic Void podcast, but when we return, it's going to be Read, Watch, and Listen.
George Romero, the master of horror, is about to bring you face to face with a shocking future. If you've seen Night of the Living Dead, you've already had the appetizer. Now get ready for the main course, Dawn of the Dead, a gruesome reminder that we are what we eat. Dawn of the Dead contains scenes of violence that may be considered shocking. No one under 17 will be admitted. From United Film Distributing Company.
Welcome back. It's now time for on the Cinematic Void podcast, where we talk about all the things we've been reading, watching, and or listening to. Nick, it's been a little while since we recorded a podcast. What have you been reading, watching, and or listening to since then?
Jim, I like to consider myself an avid reader. However, and I bet you could probably say the same thing, but when we started doing the read, watch, listen thing, I definitely kind of hoped that it would push me towards reading more. And I bet you could say the same.
Oh, yeah.
And every fucking time we sit down and do this, we're like, well, I haven't really been reading anything. And so I haven't really been reading anything. So I need everything to get on that, I guess.
Yeah. I say this every podcast now. It's like, the reason why it's in here, because like it was for me and probably for you to like, I want to read more.
Yeah, step it up.
I for like the last 5 of these, I don't think I've had to read. This one I actually do, but we'll save it for mine. So,
all right. So no reading, but let's see. Watch. I just watched. Like I say, I watched Hereditary on Halloween. I went and saw Cachet at the Los Feliz 3. That's the Michel Haneke film.
Mm-hmm.
A part of the Voyeur series. One of my favorites of his. I also just watched, because I had access to a all-region Blu-ray player. I just watched the straight cut of Irreversible. I've had the Indicator version of Irreversible that came out last year. I ordered it like right away when they announced it, knowing full well that I didn't have a full region player. But it was just so sick that it was coming out, and I got super excited. It comes with a great book, and like I say, it comes with the new 2020 cut of Irreversible, which is it plays straight instead of backwards. So I just watched that, and Irreversible is just one of my favorite films of all time. I mean, it's a 5-star film for me for many reasons. But to see it, to see it in chronological order, as he calls it, clockwise, it just doesn't really work for me. You know what I mean? It just doesn't hit the same beats. And it was interesting to see, and it's an interesting part of, film history, but you don't have to love it. There's a reason why it's backwards. There's a reason why I wanted to do it that way in the first place, and it definitely plays better for that reason, because of the way, the way in which the events happen.
Well, because like I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming like if it plays in clockwise or chronological order, it becomes a standard rape revenge.
Right.
Whereas the other way, it becomes something even more devastating, because
it's in the way that in the theatrical version, it's devastating and then ends on a happy note. But that happy note, with the knowledge that you have of what's going to happen to them, is devastating, and that's ultimately why it's brilliant. But yeah, so this just doesn't, again, I'm so glad I got to see it. This set is so fucking cool if you do have a all region player. Although I think I heard recently that Indicator is going to start doing US releases, so that'll probably come out at some point.
Maybe. Depends if they have a US license for it. I don't actually know who has the license for it.
It's Canal, I think.
Oh, Studio Canal. They might be able to. We'll see.
And then lastly, I just watched White Dog by Samuel Fuller. An insane racist dog movie, if you're not aware of what it is. It's fucking great. The dog is a great actor. I mean, I fully believe that he was racist.
I mean, it's not the point of the movie. It's basically trying to deprogram that dog.
Sure. I mean, the point, it's probably speaking on, the film's actually speaking about racism, not racist dogs. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's the plot device. But I don't know, it's great. It's definitely worth a watch if you can find it. It's not an easy find. It was on, I rented it from Cinephile over in Santa Monica. It's a Criterion DVD from back in the day.
They never upgraded the blue?
They never did, and I think there is like an international release or something that you can get if you're for all you, Region B listeners out there.
Or you racist dog aficionados.
if you love a good, just a great acting dog, just I don't know.
I mean, the history about this movie, like it was made and it got shelved for many years, so like. And because it was just misunderstood, like, the whole point is like, this guy gets this dog that was like basically trained by racists to hate black people, and like basically trying to get the dog to be, give it some dignity and get it back to where it is. It's a really interesting movie if you've never seen it. Like, I'm kind of surprised they haven't. I have a feeling eventually Criterion will put out a Blu-ray or something like that.
It's very much a product of its time, and I don't even mean subject matter wise. I actually more mean in the way that it flows as a film, the way that the pacing is and everything like that. It's much. I mean, I guess it actually came out in '82, but it definitely feels like a kind of a '70s, slow burn. It's a great fucking movie, man. So then listen, I've been listening to the new Quicksand record that came out this year. I skimmed it when it first came out. And I just wasn't in the mood for it. And so recently somebody was like, "Hey, have you heard that Quicksand?" And I put it back on, and now it's just like, I've listened to it like 3 or 4 times this week. It's great. And then in that same realm of things, I went back and listened to some Hum and a bunch of the recent, Glassjaw records that I think from like 2017 on. So that's kind of the stuff that I like from Glassjaw. It's a little more Quicksand, a little heavier. And that new Snail Mail came out, and as much as I love that one song, I haven't like really sat down and like taken it all in. I think you have, but yeah, I plan to listen to that more, but I did check it out. And it's fucking great. They just played on Colbert on Friday. Huh. This is actually really cool. I think it's Colbert. I don't know. They played on TV the other day. Let's say that. I don't know. I saw it. I saw it on YouTube. I don't know. They played on YouTube the other day. I just listened to A-Track's Morgue, Black Slaughter, and the reason I did so is because they just did a deep dive on Black Slaughter on the Halloween episode of Noise Extra. And so I guess Noise Extra are kind of making it a tradition to every Halloween do a A-Track's Morgue episode. So A-Track's Morgue, again, is like a noise artist who eventually killed himself. All of his stuff is pretty much just about death, and it's just, synth-based noise, weird soundscapes. And this one is more like synth soundscapes and samples of like Ted Bundy talking over it, stuff like that, and not so much like his vocals, like which he's known for. But I highly recommend just like, it's his second tape. I think it came out like 93. It's not like, I think there's probably like 40 physical copies or something, and it's been repressed over the years, but super limited noise tape kind of thing. You can find it on YouTube and listen to it, and then if you want to get really spooky, go listen to that. And listen to the Noise Extra episode about it after. So yeah. All right. How about you, man? What you been reading, watching, and listening to?
Reading? This is going to be the first time in a while. I got the new issue of Hellboy. It's issue 6. I wouldn't say it's really reading. I've been skimming. So it should be like skimming, watch, listen. But I do plan on sitting down and reading it. It's been busy since October. I mean, I don't have an excuse for any of the other times I missed. Well, I do have excuses, but whatever. God damn it. Next time we do this, when we do the non-traditional Christmas episode that's coming up next month, I will have a real read in there. Fucking goddamn it. Watch-wise, I just got the recently Kino put out the Kino recently restored and put out the Kojak the Night Stalker TV series with Darren McGavin. So I've been going through those. Really nice transfers. It's kind of, you know about Kojak the Night Stalker. There's 2 TV movies in this series. It's like proto X-Files.
Okay.
Really cool stuff. I also watched Jack Shoulder's Alone in the Dark, which Shout Factory just put out on Blu-ray maybe a couple months back, or maybe a month back. I can't remember when the fucking thing came out, but I watched it. It stars Martin Landau, Donald Pleasance, Jack Palance. Jack Shoulder also directed The Hidden as well as Nightmare on Elm Street 2. This was a New Line kind of like slasher movie. It's kind of weird. It's got a very great unhinged Donald Pleasance performance in this one. Which is kind of funny because I think the last time we did an episode, you were talking about Wake and Fright and his unhinged performance in that movie. Mm-hmm. Other things I've been watching, a lot of YouTube videos. DJ Premier, world famous producer, DJ, Gangstar, produced stuff for Nas, that kind of stuff. He's got a show on YouTube called So What's Up, where he basically talks about like how he made certain famous songs and pulls out the fucking, the computer floppy disk that he has all the samples on, because that's how you used to have you had to take your samples, put them on floppy disk, and then take them to the studio and cut them into the song and stuff. And I've been checking out some of them. He did one on J. Rue the Damager, Come Clean, where he talks about how he built like basically like the song from these samples and like, you know, keep it stripped down. He even does one for Limp Bizkit, that one Limp Bizkit song he'll produce with Method Man. I forget what the fuck it's called.
Oh, dude, I forgot to add in my listen. I fucking listened to the new Limp Bizkit record.
And how was that?
It's got some fucking tracks on it.
I knew you were gonna say.
But it has a song on it that sounds like fucking like. There's one song that straight up is just like, we just decided to sound like Cypress Hill. Like, I mean, it's a Cypress Hill ripoff song. Like, for no reason. And then there's like other songs that are like, oh, this is like a, like there's a song in there that's like the verse sounds like Stone Temple Pilots, and then the chorus sounds like it has like a little Nirvana ripoff. I don't know, man. Sorry to hijack your.
Nah, more power to you, but
for whatever reason, I listen to the new Limp Bizkit. So.
Well, I made the mistake of mentioning that particular DJ Premier thing.
Oh, that's okay.
I mean, that's how we
like
got into.
Why did I get here? How did we get here?
It was that.
Okay.
But like, you know, he talks about like a lot of things he's produced, and like it's just really interesting because he just breaks down and he also shouts out his engineers and like, you know, who hooked him up and like that kind of stuff. It's really cool. I don't know if you've checked them out, but like. The other thing I watched, NPR has been doing a series. I forget what it's fucking called. I forgot to write it down. But like, it's basically producers and rappers working together. The one episode was Kenny Beats and Rico Nasty talking about their relationship. The latest one was Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs talking about Alfredo and how it came about. And like, it was mostly focused on that song Skinny Suge and like what went into it and like, you know, stripped down beats and stuff, like, you know, different philosophies. Like, you know, normally we do this, but we decided since we're doing this together, we wanted to, you know, it's really cool, like insider, like production things. And the other thing I watched recently was homie Derek Millen, who was on the Salem episode. He just dropped his Salem Halloween vlog on 2020 or 2021, I should say. And like, you know, he actually messaged me. He's like, hey man, I don't know if I can put this out because like every like 5 minutes I was getting stopped by someone like who wanted to buy me a beer in Salem. And I was like, that's not a bad problem. So it's actually a really cool video, and it's like the way it kind of feels is like, you know, last year Halloween pandemic Salem, not the same. This one kind of felt like a celebration. So it's a really cool video. So if you haven't been checking out his vlogs, like he's got some coming up at the Rhode Island Comic-Con that he was just at, and he ran into Friend of the Void Keith Coogan there. You know, from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead and Adventures of Babysitting. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, I've known if you like you knew Keith before or something like that. It's like, well, I know Keith. I don't know how well he'll remember me, kind of thing, but like, you know, it's kind of cool that he ran into it. And speaking of vlogs, I forgot to mention this earlier. There is a Cinematic Void vlog, and the first, I guess, episode or whatever you want to call it dropped. It was me just going around LA filming a bunch of like Halloween decorations I liked. Vlog number 2 is going to be out. It should be a recap of the Halloween 3 screening as well as the Severin show, and also kind of like double checking, see who in November still has the balls to leave their Halloween decorations up. It's going to be a little package thing. And finally, listen. I've been listening to that Rome Street's Ransom Coup de Grace record. Love the first song. Took me a while to warm up to the rest of the tracks. I like it quite a bit. Did listen to Snail Mail Valentine all the way through. I think that first song, this is weird I'm saying this back to back. I think the first song is so good that the rest of the album is having a hard time living up to it. I think it's good, but I need to give it more listens. Like, one pass through is not going to really do it justice. Other things I've been listening to various Electric Wizard tracks. I think it's because it was kind of gloomy and kind of fall vibes, and like, you know, you can listen to black metal, you can listen to Misfits. Sometimes you want to listen to fucking some stoner rock doom metal shit. And I just put on like basically all the albums and just let it shuffle, and good shit. It's like one of those bands I really love and then haven't listened to in a bit and just kind of getting reacquainted. The other things I've listened to is two kind of, I guess, like grindcore, hardcore, power violence bands, whatever you want to call that. I listened to discographies of Monster X and Black Army Jacket. I think it's because when you said you went to the Horathon at the Arrow, you met Devin, who's friends with our Friend of the Void, Matt Average. Devin was in Monster X, as well as a ton of other bands, and it's just like, man, I love Monster X. I'm going to put that shit on. And then like Black Army Jacket, because I kind of associate the two. Not that the bands were related or anything. They're just both New York kind of power violence hardcore bands kind of thing.
They both did a split with Spaz.
I didn't listen to Spaz, though, but I don't know. Those were the two discographies I decided to throw on. But that wraps up this episode of the Cinematic Void podcast. Again, I'm going to give one last plug. Dawn of the Dead, Aero Theater, Friday, November 26th. Get your tickets. Unless they're sold out, then get in that standby line. Don't miss seeing Dawn of the Dead in the theater. Coming up next month on the Cinematic Void podcast, we're going to be doing it's going to be a return of a non-traditional Christmas. We did this last year where we picked a bunch of movies that aren't really thought of as Christmas movies, but actually are, sometimes in very tedious ways or very flimsy ways. So we got a new set we're going to talk about. And then we're going to be doing closing the year with a recap on basically our favorite Blu-ray and record releases of 2021. We did that last year. A lot of people seemed into it, so fuck it, we're going to do it again. And then that all leads into January with the return of January Giallo. Speaking of Black Friday and that Dawn of the Dead screening, over on the Void Big Cartel on Black Friday, January Giallo 2022 shirts designed by Eagle Barber, shout out to homie Eagle, are going to be up for pre-order. Got a new printer on these. They'll actually be available the second week of December. So there's not much of a window on this pre-order. Basically, going to get them. It's going to be out the door. Not doing what I did for the Halloween shirts and the past Chili Dog shirts. So excited for that. Really excited to work with this new printer. It's called Deluxe Printing. Eagle actually recommended them to me. So they do all his Sunburner Company stuff. So
nice.
And that's some good shit. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Really excited also, as we talk January Giallo, like, got some big plans for that for 2022. Might talk about a little bit of that on the Christmas episode. Maybe not. You have to listen to find out. Until next time, see you in the void.
Go ahead. We'll be off the air by midnight anyway. The emergency networks are taking over.
Our responsibility is finished.